start configuring our Zendesk QA instance. So some basic navigation and an output. We have here on the left-hand side a navigation bar, dashboards. This is where all of our reporting lives. Conversations, the view I'm in now. This is where all of our tickets arrive when they're being pulled in by the sync between Zendesk and Zendesk QA. We also have the filters here, so we can start to narrow down and identify particular cohorts of tickets that are relevant or interesting to us. Then we have tasks. Within tasks live one, the assignments. So this is the acceleration of our review process. What we're able to do here is decide who will be reviewing, who they're going to review, what sort of tickets they'll be reviewing, the volume and frequency of this. Within tasks, there also lives another section called calibrations. We won't cover calibrations today. That's for the advanced webinar that hopefully you'll have seen the invite for that comes next week. Calibrations, when we refer to it in this Zendesk QA setting, is how we align as reviewers. So just how we all would evaluate the same ticket to make sure that we're aligned, addressing the issue of fairness. But again, we won't touch on that too much today. We then have the activities tab. This is a great way to have quick access to all the interactions you've had within the platform. So as a reviewer and higher for my access levels, I can see reviews I've left, received, comments, feedback, any disputes that I need to attend to as well. Activity is primarily, I would say though, an agent use space. As they can come in, they can see their reviews, they can interact with the feedback, they can leave comments, etc. So it is very useful for the reviewers and kind of people who are actioning in the platform, but it's very, very useful for agents as well, as when they get notified they've received a review via email, etc., or in the platform, they can come in and see it via activity. The coaching section, this is where we have the quizzes, the pins, and of course the coaching sessions. We might have a look in here today if there's time, but again, the advanced webinar will cover this in much more detail. So I'd rather have additional time for questions, but if we are going well, then maybe we can look into coaching. Next, you have the help icon. This is potentially the most useful thing I will show you today in the platform. From it, you can access the knowledge base. And so if we click out here, this takes us to the knowledge base, but very usefully, it's indexed already for Zendesk QA and broken down into particular headers. So if you would like to find any more information on things we cover today, if you're curious to learn a bit more, you can, of course, go into the Zendesk QA section and find it nicely broken down into some interesting parts. As well as that, you can access the Help Center. Similarly, chat with us allows you to go via the chatbot to our tech support team. So they're there, they're on hand to resolve any issues or complications that may arise in the platform. Report it. They are absolute rock stars and hands-on keyboards to help out. So don't feel afraid to leverage the help section. This will really accelerate your use of the platform alongside today's session, I hope. Now we can begin to configure the account. So what we'll do is we come into settings. We have general settings and users, bots, and workspaces. So in our general settings, first we start here. And what we want to do is confirm that our connection is stable, up and running. So this will be connecting Zendesk to Zendesk QA. It has a name, when it was last synced. So it's important to note there is a slight delay in tickets going from Zendesk to Zendesk QA. They sync every 4 to 6 hours. This is something that's being worked on, but just so as you're aware, you can see the last time that all your tickets were brought in. So if you had a ticket that was closed 5 minutes ago and you're like, cool, we want to QA this, if you come into the platform and can't find it, double check to see when your sync was last made before panicking that nothing is working. The green active symbol lets us know that everything is good, health is well in the connection, and that sync is happening autonomously, automatically every 4 to 6 hours. And of course, should you wish, you can come in and edit the connection at any time, change the name, hide sensitive fields, change the retention period. So the retention period is how long the tickets are stored in Zendesk QA. This retention period does not impact the QA reviews left in the platform. So it might be that for compliance, you need to have the ticket data scrubbed every month, However, we will guard all of your QA reviews so you can still look back at the history of how your agents were performing or other quality aspects. Then there's some advanced options which you can also impact, like what type of conversations you'd like to bring in or exclude to keep the instance clean, let's say. Um, as well as if you ignore conversation content, I want to call this out because if you do this, you are essentially disabling the AI, even if you have it activated on the account, because there's nothing for it to work with. So you can, of course, come in, update, and change the connection at any time. Please note that throughout Zendesk QA, when you do make changes, they happen from the moment the change is affected. So if you activate a new filter, turn on a new scorecard feature, and you look at a ticket from last week and you can't see the change happening, please don't panic. That is perfectly normal. It's going to happen from the moment that you make the change. So it's all the tickets that come in afterwards where we'll see that filtering or that QA impacted. When we're happy that the connection is looking good and active, just as a health check, we then want to come into our users, bots, and workspaces. So what we will see is the users are pulled in from Zendesk, and the account permission is related to their permissions in Zendesk. So admins in Zendesk will be admins in Zendesk QA. Everyone else will be a user, and they can, of course, be changed to account manager if needs be. And this is so they can work with the scorecard now that this feature has moved. But essentially, you'll see all of your members, all your Zendesk users in Zendesk QA here. Then what we'll need to do is assign them or the people who are relevant to workspaces. The workspaces we can think of as kind of enclosed environments where we're going to be running our QA. What does this mean? Workspaces are separate from each other. They have a group of subsettings as well. If I am a member, if I'm a user on an account level and a member of a workspace, I can only see and have permission for that workspace. Admins can, of course, see everything. So even though I'm an admin and only a member of one workspace, I can still come in and see what the other workspaces are doing, should I wish. But the workspaces help us break out into our kind of working cohorts. So what are good uses of workspaces? It might be you split out by product. It might be you are various brands under the same umbrella, and you have each workspace for each brand. Another common use case is any outsourced provider or BPO. Maybe they have their own workspace, so you would have, Oliver's internal team as one workspace and BPO as another, so that we can keep the stream separate and allow for different reporting and managerial roles within. To create a workspace, very simple. We come in, we give it a name, and there we have our brand new workspace. We'll see that at the start, there's no one in the workspace. I think I'll probably be in there as an admin, but what we can do is then from the list, we can come in, we can add individual members, and of course search by users. So maybe I just want to add a few people. I can, of course, add everyone if I like. Bringing in those members to build out the workspace. As we can see, the admins come in as managers automatically, but the users come in as an agent. And so I can change that. Will they be the team I'm just reviewing and they can only see their own feedback and reviews, or they're going to be reviewing or managing different aspects, and we can give them other permissions as we go along. When I'm happy that my members are there, I want to come in and I can see there's other settings for the workspace that we'll explore. But what's really important to note is actually then we want to configure our scorecard. And so to come here and do this, we go back to the account level settings. We'll see here on the account level, we have scorecards. And so now when I come in, for anyone who's been using the platform up to this point, as of yesterday, you would have seen this change. This is our new scorecard logic. So what we do is we essentially build the scorecards, attach the categories, and assign them to workspaces. So it's much more intuitive. It's easier to manage from a centralized location. And let's go ahead and build those scorecards as an example. So what we can see here at the start is whether we want to have auto QA, auto scoring enabled. So we're going to leverage AI to do our scoring. This will link us through to the dashboard, which we will look at a bit later. But otherwise, we come to the settings, and actually we can turn on, when we come to see it, we can turn on by workspace AI. So maybe I only want AI active in one workspace and not in another, and I can come and impact that. So for instance, Oliver's team that we've just seen, automatically it's set up. But if I wanted, I could turn off the auto scoring with AI. And when I'm comfortable with that, just to make sure I'm all good, come back to my scorecards. And now let's start to build them out. So what you'll notice is we have the categories, the root causes, and the scorecards are now in separate streams. Firstly, what we'll need to do is create categories that will then attach to the scorecard later. So for example, you'll notice there's different types. There's manual. This means this was a scorecard that was created by a human and it will need to be marked by a human, as in the grading will need to be done and evaluated by our human reviewers. You'll see that there is system, and here's the hologram that lets us know this is the auto QA we're leveraging. System means it's one of the 8 predefined auto QA categories. These were just previously referred to as the auto QA categories that we can activate on the scorecard. The logic is still true as before, that the system categories cannot be trained. They're out the box models, which means they're ready to go, so you can use them from the first moment. But the model will not learn from your input. So that's important to call out. We'll see why it's useful to grade with them, because we can see how aligned we are thanks to the acceptance rate. But a question that pops up time and time again is, how do I train the model? For the system categories, this cannot be done, but they're still very useful. But I just wanted to get in front of that. So you'll see we have manual, we have system, and then we also have exact text match, which is another type of AI category that we won't touch on today, but it is part of the advanced webinar. So please make sure to sign up for that, or you can check the knowledge base. So here's the existing categories. If there's others that we wish to add, as we would probably want to do so, we come into create, and we want to make a new category. We can decide whether it's manual or exact text match. So I'm going to make a manual category. I'm going to call it, like let's say 5-star service. We'll see here there's a description I can add. So this will be like a hovering tooltip. So did the agent go above and beyond? And then I create the category. If I want to, I can go straight to scorecards, but I can see that the category will now exist in this list. And before I go and start building my scorecard, also important to note, I want to check the settings. So do I want to use emojis or numbers? Do I want to allow people to skip categories? So do I want the NA to be visible? So can a category be ungraded? And if I'm happy with that, do I want it to be available for the whole scorecard? So it's NA for all my rating categories. Or do I want to be able to specify for each category? So maybe I have 10 categories that are fixed, they have to be answered. But then 5-star service, for example, I want to have the option to skip it and have NA if it wasn't relevant for that conversation. So making sure we have this configured correctly. We now want to jump over to our scorecards. You'll see that we have scorecards already created, assigned to particular workspaces. And what we can do is actually let's create a brand new one. We then want to choose what workspaces it's getting assigned to. So will it go to all of them? Is this a default I want to roll out to everyone? Or do I want it to go just to Oliver's team, for instance? And I can double check here, is the auto QA enabled? If not, I can take it off again. But actually what I want to do is make sure that my auto QA is enabled. Now I'm going to build my scorecard out. So I can do it first by deciding the groups. So maybe I have extra mile as a group heading, core I can't spell competency. Sorry, that's not with me today. Um, let's say core values and soft skills. We'll see why this is really useful, because maybe I want to reorder it as well to put extra mile down at the bottom, because it will help with my reporting and other features. So now for core values, I can add a category. And so I can now come to our drop down list. So maybe I want to add greeting, the auto QA category, seeing there that I can see that this is a fixed scale of yes or no, but because I have my skippable active, I can choose to have it as if this has to be graded and can't be skipped. I'm now going to assign the weighting. The weighting is much simpler than it was previously. So the total weighting cannot be more than 100. So I need to think essentially what percentage do I assign greeting to my final grade? And I'm going to say it's 5%. So I give it 5. I then need to choose, is this a critical category? So will this fail either the whole scorecard or does it fail the group of core values? So maybe if they don't greet the customer, I want it to fail the group of core values. I can add a certain condition, but actually this is one that I want all the time. And now I can add root causes. And so here I can assign the root cause to the actual rating. So this is, again, a great way to, one, use a root cause to help instruct our agents of common markdowns that we might see within our scorecard or rubric. Again, we're transferring potentially over from a sheet or a previous QA tool. As well as that, as a reviewer, this now helps guide me into how I should grade. So why might we mark down greeting? I could say wrong customer name, and I can create that as a new one. Or too informal. And again, creating these new root causes that we see here. And then for positive, actually, I don't have anything I would like to add as a root cause there, so that's great. I can add the other option, and this would give me a free text field, meaning that I can enter anything I'd like directly into the scorecard. And I can choose to select multiple root causes as well. When I'm happy with how the category is configured for this scorecard, I can apply those changes. And I now have greeting as an auto QA, a system category on my core values. If I want to move it, I can of course say, actually, I'd say this is more of a soft skill for me, potentially, so that can go there. I can then add another category, and maybe this is tone, again, leveraging auto QA. And as we see, it's the exact same process. I want this to be worth 10 out of my 100. And for me, it's not a critical category. I don't need any root causes, and it shouldn't be skippable, but it will be let's say a 4 scale rating. When building categories, well, let's do a manual one now. So we have extra mile. 5-star service for me is going to be on the extra mile. I do want it to be skippable because it might be that it's not relevant if it's a particular ticket. What I could also do is maybe only show this on the condition that the CSAT score is high. So actually, if there's no review, then I haven't seen a 5-star service applicable, so I can NA it. But if it does show up with a good CSAT, I can add that and I can make it a higher weighting. When building out your categories, especially the manual ones, I would always advise to go with binary if possible, because we can do a simple yes or no, it's been completed, as well as attaching those root causes to the values. If you have a 5-point or 4-point scale that works for you, that's fantastic. What I would say is, because we get lots of agent buy-in with the tool, which is amazing, they might ask, hey, I got 4 out of 5. How do I get 5 out of 5? If you can attach a reason to each different rating, a root cause to each different rating as to why they wouldn't get 5 out of 5 or 4 out of 4 marks, then brilliant, and move ahead with it. But otherwise, if it's a bit wishy-washy and you say, well, I felt that today you did everything right, but I just didn't get that 5 out of 5 feeling from you, it can be a good way to lose their buy-in, and sometimes seems unfair to the agent. So kind of remembering the end user in all of this as well really helps. And let's say here I'm happy with this. Maybe for this I want to add some root causes as to why it was positive. So I can say, like extremely happy customer, um, and if there's anything from this pre-populated list, that could also work. Let's say I test one just for instance, so we can populate it out. I can add them here. Great. And other. So if I want to leave some additional feedback in the scorecard, apply it. And this is how we build it out. So for your manual, it's the exact same. So we want to make the category with a description, and then within each scorecard, we can assign how important it is. And again, we could choose if it's just for the individual workspace or multiple. And of course, saying where we want the auto QA to be enabled for those particular workspaces and categories. So a much more flexible tool. We can have, individual or group level critical categories, etc. We build it out. We're super happy. And when we're ready, then we come and we publish the scorecard, oh, which I haven't given a name. So that's also a good call out. So this could be Oliver's team reviewer. And so I'm happy with this. I now publish it, and I have my very own scorecard. So we've taken a little bit longer today to, let's say, build out the scorecards. But hopefully this new configuration, you can see how much more powerful it is and how you can also be a bit more intuitive. Now, when we're ready, what we want to do is come to the conversations view because we're actually going to start to leave some reviews. So hopefully everything seems really clear now. We've been able to configure our workspaces. We can build out those scorecards and apply them at scale across. And now what we actually want to do is to start leaving reviews on tickets. So we come to conversations. The toggle button here, really useful. It will pop out this side panel. Otherwise, it does it by its own. So just good to remember that this is how you control that. The other thing is that underneath the conversations header, we'll see what workspace we're in. So making sure that if I've set up a particular team or scorecard, making sure I'm in the right workspace to do that evaluation. So here we're in Oliver's team. A few out the box filters, but we can make them ourselves. And here we see the tickets that are now being pulled in, matching the filter conditions. I have the ticket itself here where I can see the breakdown between customer and agent, any negative sentiment that's applied based on the text within the ticket. We then have the feedback section. So once again, thanks to the hologram, I know that this is more auto QA and AI being played. So these are some um, salient points or insights that have been detected by AI from scanning the conversation contents. They've identified a churn risk. They've seen that escalation's been requested. This is an outlier, so this sits outside of your regular ticket cadence, let's say. They've also detected negative sentiment, a knowledge gap, which is one of those custom text match spotlights, which will be covered in the advanced webinar. I can see no reviews have been done yet, and I can also see that there was a bad CSAT. Then we have the info tab, and this gives us the description, as well as the data that we're pulling through from Zendesk. So we can link out to the conversation in Zendesk. We can see any tags that we've applied on the ticket from Zendesk. And then what we have at the bottom here is delete conversation. And this is really important for our HIPAA compliance. What this will do is this will delete the conversation from Zendesk QA. So it will remove this ticket along with any reviews that we have left from Zendesk QA. It won't delete the ticket from Zendesk. It's a downstream relationship. So everything that comes from Zendesk into Zendesk QA is sort of law and writ, let's say. We can't change things in Zendesk QA and pass that back into the main Zendesk. So if we choose to delete the conversation, again, we have to confirm that, but it will remove it entirely from Zendesk QA. Now we want to review, we can either click the review button or review the conversation here from the tab. And what we'll see is, because I don't have all my users in this workspace, it hasn't assigned the reviewee, but I will choose one. And here we can see there's my root causes I can select, dropping it in. Tone. What you may have noticed is greeting and tone haven't been auto-scored, and this is because I don't have the right agents in the workspace, so it's unable to identify Kara and Kamal, and so it hasn't performed part of the AI grading. So important to note, for the AI grading to take place, we need the ticket to be closed or solved. There needs to be an agent in that workspace who is the same agent working the ticket that we see from Zendesk. And generally, it should have at least one message from the customer and the agent with about 10 words. But that last part can be, let's say, bent the rules sometimes if it's like a very long piece of text that has data to analyze. So we'll see here, we can obviously apply our root causes. And what we're going to do is we're going to jump to our main demo instance so we can actually see how to leave a proper review with a bit more data. And let's leverage the main Zendesk QA account. Again, we can see how we can jump between workspaces to perform the right amount of quality. Again, because I'm an admin and I can see all the workspaces. If I'm a user and an agent or a user and reviewer, I can't jump between all of these workspaces. Same ticket, same application, but now because we're in our main workspace, we can see it's able to identify the agent. I've made a scorecard with all the auto QA categories active, and we can see the grading really good in this instance. One thing to remember is now we'll also see in feedback there was an auto QA grade because we have it activated. It lets us know what type of review this is, so text-based. And the other really important thing is that this auto QA rating is fixed. So this AQS hologram one is fixed, remembering that we can't learn. However, I don't need to agree with this by submitting a manual review. This is why we say it's great to have it on a scorecard you'll be using so you can interact with it and understand how aligned you are. So maybe I agree entirely, in which case I can submit that review. Great. But if not, I can say, yep, spelling, grammar, or tone I thought was different. So I can change this at any time, and that's absolutely fine before submitting. And I could say, yep, no, I think everything else is great and I agree with it. And now what we can come to do is using the comment box for actually leaving some constructive criticism or feedback. So it could be, you know, uh, great work, would want a bit more of a friendly sign off. Let's discuss. And I can also tag people in this. So Karen Kamal will get a notification. However, I can also tag maybe Abdullah, who's a team lead or my manager, and just want him to see this review. And when we're ready and happy, we can also submit that review. And so now we've submitted the first review for Karen Kamal. As you can see here, we log it. If we go into a new ticket, same happens again. So now we can see where Auto QA has graded, again, judging on ticket content with Miguel. We can, of course, have a blended scorecard that might be a mix of Auto QA and manual. And so here we see this one would fail the whole review because it's a critical category. There's the other text box if I want to do any kind of free text, and it goes straight into the scorecard. So they're able to see it there, and I don't need to spend time putting that in to my comments section here. Hopefully that review process looks good, and thanks to the new scorecards, you can really build out like a nice solid QA process there. The next thing would be, how do we identify conversations that are relevant and interesting for us, given that we might have thousands? So what we want to do is build out some public filters. Public filters will be viewable to every reviewer and above in the workspace. Otherwise, you can make them private for yourself. But when we want to build a new filter, click the plus, give it a name. So it could be, let's say, escalation DSAT is the topic. So I want to see where, one, AI has detected escalation, and two, where I've received a detractor, a negative CSAT result. Make sure there's a date range applied, and then you'll see here you're able to leverage those auto QA categories to filter it. So maybe we want to see where there was a lack of empathy or a greeting wasn't detected. So play around and explore these filters. Enjoy kind of the splicing you can do thanks to the AI. There's also some non-AI filters that are equally as powerful and useful. So conversation group, these are your groups coming through from Zendesk. So groups in Zendesk QA in the settings need to be built out separately for reporting. But if you have your groups based in Zendesk, conversation group is where you'll find it. So maybe you can see where tier 1 or tier 2, for instance, is coming from. We can even see conversation status. So remembering AI only works on closed or solved tickets, but maybe I want to see all my open or pending tickets to do QA there. Other things that might be really useful. So for this filter, we want our DSATs. So just remembering that it was bad, for instance, or 1. And so there's the DSAT filter applied. We can also choose if it's a particular participant, any external ID, if we want to identify customers, so public participant, so getting their email in as well. And if it's been reviewed or not, or who it was reviewed by. Then we can apply these spotlights, so those auto insights that AI is generating for us. And as we said in this title, we want to go for escalation, so where it was detected. So now what we've done is we've combined our negative CSAT is detected on the ticket as well as escalation thanks to AI. And I can see I have 680 tickets that match that. It might be that I want to further narrow this down, and these filters don't give me enough variation. So what I can do is I come to the help desk section, I click plus, and now what I'll see is the fields that are coming from my Zendesk are able to be found here. So let's say I wanted to find it for refunds. Maybe I have a help desk field that is contact reason. Here we have it as, like industry or priority. But let's say this was contact reason, I could select it, and then I would have the drop-down list of all my potential contact reasons, so like refund, account lockout, fraud, whatever it looks like, and then we can apply that. So what we're able to do is really narrow down these conversations if we wanted to get to maybe like 50 that were really useful. So when we're happy, we've created our filter. We then click create. It's now been saved and it's gone live. You'll of course see here that we now have the escalation DSAT filter, and actually one of the tickets I already reviewed features in there. So what I could have done is added the review status not reviewed if I wanted to remove that out. And here's the list of tickets that matches. Again, I didn't specify language, so it's bringing through any language. What we'll notice is auto QA again, able to grade. It's not detected on some, so it might be worth a call out there. But I can go through, I can say, I can see a greeting here. So actually, I'm going to disagree with auto QA in this instance. Readability is only available in English at the moment. So you would have to manually grade that if it wasn't an English ticket. And spelling and grammar, we do have in French, German, English, and Polish. Soon to be released, as in very soon, is Spanish and Portuguese. So please reach out to support if Spanish and Portuguese are languages you'd like activated early to test. But by default, it's those four languages available. And so we can go through, we're happy. If we want to review the ticket in our language we're running the platform in, we can click the globe here in the top right-hand corner. This will translate it. And so I don't need to have kept up my 1,000-day streak on German in Duolingo, and I'm able to come in, read the ticket, make sure it all sounds good. And of course, it can be sent back to its native language, or potentially I have native team leads and agents who want to work together. If I'm happy, I can of course leave another review for this. And as we see here, we're now leaving all of our reviews. An important point that we disagreed with auto QA in one instance, and we'll see what that looks like later in the reporting. Hopefully we're feeling comfortable now with getting into our account, building workspaces, identifying what categories or quality points are important to add to our scorecards, along with root causes that we can use to guide agents and reviewers. We've now seen how to leave reviews. We can leverage the comments box for feedback and the ability to tag and loop people in to the conversation to see what's going on. The next step is to accelerate this process and leverage assignments. So for that, we come to the tasks section. Here we can see it looks very similar to conversations, except we have your assignments, which is assignments that I'm taking part in. Other assignments, which is ones that exist, but I'm not taking part in. So this is also great because it might be that I don't do any assignments, but I make them for other people, or I just want visibility on what is being done. And so I can have that. Calibrations, you won't see by default because that needs to be activated in the workspace settings. But again, I will leave that for another webinar that's coming next week, the advanced one. And we'll focus today primarily on assignments. So you can see here there's a list of assignments that I've been given. Where it differs from the conversation filters is I can see that here there's a time left, so there's a countdown, as well as a goal that we're working towards. This one happens to be for, let's say, 5-9 tickets, and I can see this is a telephone conversation because I have transcriptions active in Zendesk, and I'm using either Zendesk Talk or one of our partners, which you can see more of that on the help desk. I get my summary, I can come through. One thing you'll notice is auto QA currently doesn't work on call transcriptions, so this will need to be a manual review. So for that, I have my voice scorecard. Let's imagine it's been a great performance by Diogo. Excellent work. And maybe I want his team lead to see this. So Ines for highlight. So I'm happy. I get to leave my review. I can see that conversation was completed. I've now taken one more away from our goal and still have 2 hours left, and I can work through this list here of Diogo's phone calls apparently. So how do we build out our assignments so they're impactful and matter, and we can accelerate our review process to give more feedback, improve or help improve with our agents, and grow as a business, as well as using the assignments to spot potential gaps in both our service and product offering. So for that, we want to come to create assignment. And we're now going to go through the assignment flow. It's 4 steps that will build out the assignments we want. So we want to give it a name. I would always advise to make the naming clear, simple, and concise because it can be reported on. So you'll be able to pull out which assignment. So it might be, let's say Team Oliver weekly uh, DSAT. Maybe I just want just every single DSAT ticket within my team to be reviewed, um, and then anything else that is relevant. But I think this all looks quite good, and maybe it's email just to be even more precise. I then set how often the cycle repeats, remembering that every time the cycle begins or restarts, all the tickets that match the conditions we're about to put in will be captured and brought through as a static list in that moment. So that's why it's important to know that if we want it to repeat weekly, we also have to set the day because it will be every Tuesday that list is recycled and renewed. And so otherwise, if I set it as Monday, but a ticket gets changed on Wednesday and I don't see it, it's probably because it fell outside of the conditions during the time when the assignment was renewed. But I'll say for Monday to keep it simple at 10 a.m. in my Madrid hour. I then want to pick who is going to be taking part. So maybe this is, I can leverage the groups here to help, but actually I'm going to use individuals in this instance. So this one is for me and in my team is also Inish. And then I want to decide who will be getting reviewed. So we can see here it's all workspace users, or if I want to be quick, I can leverage a group again. So here we have agents, and every time I update agents in the account settings, it will automatically update here in the assignment. So a good one could also be if you do a group called onboarders or new starters. So you can manage that, and it means that the assignment will always be working every time it's refreshed for your new starters, as long as you keep the group in Zendesk QA maintained instead of having to come in and add 30 new people and change it every time. So a good way we can leverage groups there is just outside of the reporting purposes. Then we want to check what type of user we'll be selecting. So workspace default is a blend of either most active agent, which we have selected currently, or assignee. You can do participant as well, but what does most active agent mean? The agent who has the most touch points on the ticket when it's brought into Zendesk QA. Next, we then have assignee. This is the person who owns the ticket at the time it's brought into the assignment. Participant is an interesting one. It's quite nice because it means that any of these reviewees, so we can double check we have the right people in the list, any of these reviewees that feature on a ticket that matches the conditions will be eligible to be in this assignment. So participants useful. Why? Maybe you have an escalation team or a specialist team who they're never the most active on the ticket, so they wouldn't be available by most active agent, and it's very unlikely they close the ticket or own it for longer than one or two touch points. So they're very unlikely to be the assignee. So this way we can get much more exposure to their ticket group without needing to manually go in and search. So if we use participant, then we want to set conditions. And what's very nice is because we feel comfortable with the filter conditions that we've seen in the conversations tab, it's the exact same. So we can use that mix of AI, of regular filters, and help desk fields to build out the impactful assignments. I, of course, said this is a DSAT email, so I'm going to go with, again, satisfaction score is low, apply the filter. And I said email, so I can also go for conversation channel. Here we are. Email. Fantastic. Remembering I can also exclude if I wanted. And so what we'll also see is matching conversations updates in real time. So this tells me that my email channel is giving me no tickets that match these filter conditions. So this isn't my assignment goal. This is just alerting me to um, how much volume I have potentially. So more of a health check. So if I wanted 100 reviews to be done, it's unlikely because I have zero. Whereas if I loosen the requirements, I can see 748. So actually my goal of 100 reviews, very possible. And that way we can move forwards with the assignment, remembering that it will be myself and Nesh doing the reviews with these 46 users as the agents. When I'm comfortable with that, I now come to setting a goal. So if we do a shared pool, This means that this conversation list is populated, and Inesh and I can go in and select various tickets at our beck and call. Um, we have a team goal we work towards, but there's no kind of direct accountability. Whereas if we go assign conversations from the shared pool, it's the same list of conversations, except both Inesh and I will have an individual target that we need to hit to contribute to the team target. So it gives more accountability. It's great when you have multiple reviewers on an assignment. And then we get to set the review goal. So do we want them to review collectively a percentage or a number of conversations? Percentage obviously will fluctuate with the volume of tickets that come in, whereas setting it as a number of conversations is a fixed number. Do I want it to be that we each have a certain amount ourselves, so 10 each? Or is this more reviewee focused? And do I want that each of our agents, let's say, gets 2 bits of feedback in total? So this would mean 2 reviews, sorry, in total. And so it would be 92, whereas if I said it as 2%, it would be 2% of their total reviews. So this number could kind of fluctuate wildly between agents if one is like very high volume and the other isn't. So again, depending on how you'd like to do it, configure it that way. When you're happy, click create assignment. It then on the activation date will go live. And what we'll see, because I didn't save that or publish it, is you then have it appear here in the list. And so we saw what the list view looks like. Now what we can see is when we do the assigned view, very similar, except there's a team goal, there's my individual goal, and my list of conversations. So I can come in, I can see if Auto QA can grade this, but of course there's very little here. And so this is really good because it gives me an opportunity to now in the feedback, I can actually give this to someone else. So I could reassign it to a different user, or I can replace or remove. So maybe I want to replace it because it's too short. And again, this reason is captured and we can get that out of the assignments dashboard. Now, when I replace it, it will bring me through a new one again for Carlos because this assignment setting, obviously my filter conditions are not bringing through the right amount of conversations. So I can keep trying to replace if I wish or remove. Otherwise, I can manually review. But for speed's sake today, let's use our main scorecard. So I can say this was all done. Okay. But actually what we'll do is we will say he failed solution accuracy for these reasons. So that goes back to the agent. And let's work on this. Submitting it, and what you'll see is actually he failed the scorecard because the critical category, which was the whole scorecard, was failed. But more importantly, my goal has been depleted by 1. I've worked towards I have 4 goals to go left. Our team goal is being chipped away at, and that timer still counts down. And we can have multiple assignments live at any one time. As you can see here, I can work through them, knowing these are my assignments. When I'm done, it will say it's been completed and we'll be able to work through it. Obviously, this assignment is just bringing through small conversations, so I need to readdress the filter conditions. Assignments can be edited at any time. So if I see it's bringing through a lot of these, what I might refer to as junk conversations, I can edit the assignment to help remove them. And when I'm happy and know that this is a way I can scale, leaving all that feedback, it's now time for how do we get those insights actionable and what do we do with this? So this is where we come to the dashboard. And the 2 we're going to look at today are 2 very important ones. You have the reviews dashboard. So this is all of our manual input. So even if we're leveraging system auto QA or custom text match categories, as long as we are manually evaluating these reviews, again, dashboard migration. So, well, scorecard migration. So that's why I might be going a little slow today. Apologies. But as long as we're leaving manual reviews, so validating or changing auto QA categories, doing our manual evaluations, this will all be captured and stored here in the reviews dashboard. And thankfully, it's decided to play nice today. What you'll notice here is there's the preset filter conditions, of which there are even more we can dive into. You then have the ability to activate or deactivate certain cards if you want to neaten the view up, like you find this is a bit too noisy. And of course, you can download the entire dashboard. This will give you a zip file with multiple CSVs. This allows you to pull the data out and send it or upload it to a different visualization platform or report on it differently. Maybe you have like pie charts you'd like to show. This can all be done so the data isn't trapped and self-contained from reviews. Configure the filters to how you like, and then you'll see your IQS. So this is your quality score. So all of that feedback you've manually input, whether it's validating AI, manually grading, and submitting, is in here. And if you click on it, you can drill down into a data table, which can be exported on its own, and also ordered by different columns to help order. You have your kind of top line metrics here. And of course, whenever something's underlined, you can click in and drill down into it. We have additional visualizations, so tracking different trends, QA over pass rates, seeing the number of reviews, individual categories, how they're performing. We see here we have average category scores, and the faded blue ones are the inactive categories. So if we've made a category inactive on our scorecard, if we delete it, we lose the data, but if we make it inactive, it doesn't appear on the scorecard, but we're still able to report on that historical data. The addition to see where we're scoring high, where are our biggest opportunities for improvement with our agents? So what are our 0%ers? And of course, these individual tables can be exported on their own. So we can do this either as we see it, or we can actually do as displayed in the data table. So it had to be, some fields are hidden to make it look nicer in the dashboard. We can actually pull the full data table out for this particular table here. So knowing that we can do this across all of them whenever we see those three dots, we can see how the category group. So this is why the grouping on the scorecard is important. We can report on that as a standalone, as well as the individual category insights that we've seen. Trend is the change over the time. So if I have it as 30 days, it's 30 days by the previous 30 days. If it's week, then it's week over week. Root cause analysis. So whenever we're triggering those root causes and reporting them in the platform, we can actually then drill in and see who is triggering these for which reviews. And again, this can all be downloaded and exported. Comparing workspaces, how our reviewers and reviewees are doing, as well as the scores by category and scores by reviews of our agents. So we can find those points we need to address, see whether there's any weak points, and really provide a very comprehensive, QA driven data to back up all the input that we're doing. The other dashboard I want to call out today, and then have time for questions, is the Auto QA dashboard. So what this is looking at is, provided we have Auto QA active on a scorecard and enabled in the workspace, it will be evaluating our conversations. And so as we see here, we have very similar filter conditions. However, we can leverage this to use those spotlights. So when we saw the spotlights like churn risk, escalation, we can also just say at a quick hand, rather than seeing the list of conversations in the filters, I can say, I just want to see all of my escalation tickets. And if I want to, I can select it, refresh the table, and pull that through. I can see here I had 576 conversations auto-reviewed by AutoQA versus the 41 that I was able to go in and manually review. So this could be that I still used the AutoQA scorecard but validated it manually. This is every conversation that matched the analysis criteria. So it's been able to be auto-reviewed. So that closed solved, enough data to be reviewed, and of course has an agent attached to the ticket who is in the workspace. And we can explore and drill into these conversations, again, knowing that we can download this data table or the entire dashboard, and similarly make it look how we wish by hiding certain cards. Then what we'll see here, and this is the important part. So now we can see there's an AQS. So this is that auto-evaluated score. So when we see the fixed score by AutoQA, when we see the hologram, this we can't change. And remember, we can't train the model to learn how we would want it to score, which is why we have the acceptance rate. So every time we submit an auto QA category or change and submit an auto QA category, that will impact the acceptance rate. We can drill down there should we wish. And what this lets me know is that how much confidence or how aligned I am with this AQS score. Whenever I change the conversation, we can drill down and see where that's coming from. And of course, this wouldn't be as impactful without the per category breakdown. So what we can see here is we can see our acceptance rate and the scores with the number of manually reviewed conversations. So how I like to think of this is I say that for the 36 conversations I reviewed manually as a human, I have 100% confidence that the score given by the AI for closing, so this 84%, is reliable. Thanks to that, I know that from the 576 conversations, so an additional 500 that or almost 550 that I couldn't review myself because there'll be an overlap here, I can trust that this is how our team is performing at a, almost complete coverage scale. So I can say, one, is this the threshold that I deem acceptable for greeting? If it is, fantastic. If not, we can drill in and understand why. And secondly, I can watch how this changes over time. So if it gets lower, because I have confidence in the auto QA, I can say, okay, let's look into this. What would I say is a good measure of confidence? If the acceptance rate is 80% or higher, then I would say fantastic. Please do let us know if you see anything strange with the auto QA. But it's good to know that it will make some mistakes and they won't look the same as a human would make. That's not to say that feedback isn't relevant. Please, it is. Pass it through to our support team. But what's important to note is it doesn't mean the model's broken. It's just that you might disagree with how it grades. By this, I mean, let's say you grade 10,000 conversations over a year and you have a 95% agreement acceptance rate. You might see it where there's a few times you disagree, which is perfectly normal. You might disagree with your human reviewer. So it's just good to note that it's not maybe a broken model, more just a misalignment. It's just that the auto QA makes mistakes differently to how a human would. And it does it at scale. So obviously it's not just saying, oh, for this 3 conversations that I'm able to review, it's like for these 10,000 that I got my hands on. But a really good way to see how, as an insight level, your AI or your grading strategy aligns with our AI. And so when you have these categories active, we're able to see it all. And of course, then we can have it broken down by agent. So we can identify where the biggest gaps are and opportunities thanks to a much, much greater scale than we can normally manage thanks to time and resource. Additional data tables here, which I will let you explore, and a call out for a lot of these Looker reviews that there is a slight delay because we are passing it through, a different provider to make it more powerful and give more insights. So if you've left 20, 30 reviews and you don't see anything in the dashboard, please double check, one, you've got the right date configuration, and also that it was updated recently and you're not waiting for it to resync. This takes between 30 minutes to 90 minutes, depending on how mature the workspace is. And this time is obviously gradually coming down as we work to improve it. But that today has been our tour of the Zendesk QA platform. So hopefully now you're feeling confident to get in, get set up, make those workspaces, configure your scorecards, start to leave reviews, use the comments section for feedback, go into assignments, help your team to find the path of least resistance and provide the most feedback to your agents. Then gain super valuable insights thanks to the data available in the reviews and auto QA dashboard.